You could say that the year 2022 has just begun. It's only been a couple of months, but even that was enough time for archaeologists to discover artifacts that'll make us look at the world differently. This is Infinity, and in this episode I'll show you the most incredible archaeological discoveries and finds of 2022 that'll change history. Let's go! It turns out that a child's tooth can help make an important discovery. Archaeologists spent more than 30 years carefully sifting through the layers of soil inside Groot Mandarin. Perseverance has borne fruit. This year they literally managed to dig much deeper, which in turn transported them to a more distant past. A child's tooth found in Groot Mandarin indicates that modern humans ended up in Western Europe at least 10,000 years earlier than expected. Before that, it was thought that modern humans arrived in Europe no earlier than 43,000 years ago. But when archaeologists discovered the child's tooth of Homo sapiens and determined its age, their surprise was boundless. After all, its age was about 54,000 years. The new discovery means that Neanderthals and Homo sapiens lived in this region in parallel for more than 10,000 years before Neanderthals became extinct. Professor Ludovic Slimak of the University of Toulouse stressed that this incredible find literally rewrites all their history books. Notes from the past. Thanks to the searches, which practically never stop, we already know quite a lot about life of ancient Egypt. Ancient people left behind a lot of artifacts, which archaeologists systematically find and show to the world. Recently, they've stumbled upon the so-called notes from the past, thanks to which we can learn about the life of the Egyptians a little bit more. In January 2022, during the excavations of the ancient Egyptian city of Athribis, which was located in the Nile Delta, archaeologists found more than 18,000 clay notebooks with inscriptions. The Egyptians wrote on them about 2,000 years ago. These notebooks are in fact ostracons, fragments of earthenware, such as fragments of jugs and other kitchen utensils of the time. The inscriptions were usually scratched directly onto the surface of the tablet with a reed or hollow stick. According to scientists, this archaeological find gives an idea of the daily life of the ancient Egyptians, the level of trade, education, and culture. For example, among the clay notebooks there are tablets with Greek inscriptions. Among the records there are also drawings, most likely made by schoolchildren. By the way, the naughtiest of them apparently were forced to write these same hieroglyphs over and over again because hundreds of similar pieces of writing on the front and back of the tablets have been found. Moreover, scientists have deciphered a list of names, names of months, and even lists of foods. Thanks to such finds, it's possible to revive the life of ancient Egypt and look at it through such records. Board game. In early 2022, an international team of archaeologists excavated a settlement in the Kumaira Valley, Oman. They found a rare artifact, a board game, which is not less than 4,000 years old. The find is a fragment of a stone board with a grid pattern. Each square, of which there are at least 13, has central cavity for placing the pieces. Archaeologists claim that this is a likeness of the royal game of Ur, also known as the game of 20 squares. This is an ancient board game, the appearance of which historians attribute to the 3rd millennium BC. Game fields for it were found in Mesopotamia, and the rules have become known through the translation of Babylonian clay tablets. The Royal Game of Ur is a 2-player game, similar to modern backgammon. In addition to the game, researchers have discovered the ruins of a previously unknown tower, as well as evidence of copper smelting and objects made from this metal. This shows that the settlement was involved in the lucrative copper trade for which Oman was then famous. It's not only the discoveries of 2022 that can change history and our view of the world. Over the past 10 years, other amazing and interesting artifacts and finds have been discovered, and they're also worth seeing. Stay tuned, there's more to come. The mummy in sneakers. In 2016, Mongolian archaeologists discovered the mummy of a Turkic woman in the Altai Mountains. Her age was estimated at 1,500 years. Of course, the scientists couldn't help but publish pictures of the interesting find. Attentive internet users were immediately interested in the shoes on the mummy's feet. The shoes, or rather the characteristic stripes on them, reminded them of Adidas sneakers. People even suggested that the dead woman could be a time traveler, but the potential guest from the future was only wearing the national Turkic shoes of those times, which certainly had nothing in common with modern sports shoes. Moreover, the woman probably made these shoes herself. An international team of archaeologists from Egypt and the Dominican Republic, during the excavation of 16 stone tombs in the Temple of Osiris Magna in Alexandria, came across something interesting. It was two mummies of a man and a woman aged 2,500 years. The bodies were buried in separate tombs in limestone sarcophagi. It's not clear who the man and woman were when they were alive, but their tombs were built next to each other. They died about the same period during the Saite period, or the 26th dynasty of pharaohs, which ruled in 685 to 525 BC. But mummies are often found in Egypt. What could be surprising? The fact that those found in Osiris Magna were with golden tongues, or rather amulets made of gold foil in the shape of tongues were placed in their mouths. The ancient Egyptians believed that the golden tongues endowed the deceased with the ability to speak in the afterlife when they appeared before the Lord of the afterlife, Osiris. The man's tomb was sealed, and the remains, including the skull with the distinctive golden tongue, are well preserved. Obviously, the tomb raiders didn't get to it, so the tomb has stood untouched for thousands of years. Moreover, hundreds of artifacts, jewelry, and other ritual objects have been preserved inside it. The skull of a cave bear. Not so long ago, Ural archaeologists found the skull of a Pleistocene small cave bear in the Imene Cave in the Republic of Bashkortostan, Russia. The bear lived in this area 35,000 years ago. They found an artificial hole in the parietal part of the skull, which could have been made by a man with a spearhead. The bear was 9 to 10 years old at the time of its death. Scientists explained that common cave bears were huge, and Pleistocene small cave bears were similar in size to modern brown bears. Unlike today's bears, Pleistocene small cave bears were vegetarians. It turns out that the bear which skull was found in the cave was not defended against. It was most likely killed for food. According to the researchers, the find is of great scientific importance. It's the only evidence of Paleolithic man hunting a Pleistocene small cave bear. Skulls with traces of trepanation. Anthropologists of the Institute of Archaeology of the Russian Academy of Sciences, studying the materials which were obtained during the excavation of the mound, found a skull with traces of lifetime trepanation. The operation dates back to the 3rd millennium BC. Today, it's one of the most serious trepanations of the Bronze Age. Anthropologists have highlighted the skull of the surgeon at the time who performed the operation. He used a stone tool to scrape out a large section of bone, but left a bone plate less than 1 millimeter thick. Therefore, penetration into the cranial cavity, which contains large blood vessels, was avoided. This gives an idea of the development of medical knowledge as well as the worldview of ancient man. Vampire skeletons. In Bulgaria, archaeologists discovered the skeletons of 2 vampires near a church in the city of Sozopol. A total of 70 human remains were discovered during the excavations, but only 2 skeletons were found with a distinctive feature. Iron rods had been inserted into their rib cages. Of course, we'll not know whether the owners of these skeletons drank blood, but we will be convinced of the belief that some could become terrible monsters after death. The living people tried to protect themselves, so they stabbed the dead through the heart. That way, they definitely wouldn't be able to get out of the grave to drink the blood of the living people. Bulgarian archaeologists have suggested that one of the vampire burials rested the remains of a man named Krivic, who lived in the 14th century. Such a speculation was put forward because representatives of the urban nobility were buried near the large monasteries. Krivic had a reputation of being a bandit and a pirate. However, this did not prevent him from becoming a nobleman and serving as the mayor of Sozopol. However, the townspeople suffered a lot from him. According to the beliefs that were widespread among Slavs in the Middle Ages, the soul of a bad person did not go to the other world, stayed in the body, suffered, and sometimes could leave the grave and drink the blood of animals and people. Therefore, the soul was dealt with by means of a specially sharpened iron pin. Apparently, the inhabitants of Sozopol were so afraid of Krivic's return that they applied a similar method to him. That's all, guys. Do you believe that vampires really existed? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.